So thanks for having me. It's been a long time since I've been back in Alberta. Last time I was here actually was at the CNIE conference in Banff about 2 or 3 years ago. And prior to that, I think there was an event on open education in Edmonton about, I don't know, 8, 10 years ago. And so it's, you've got critical mass, I can tell just by looking in the room today. You got enough people to make a difference happen in the open education sector here in Alberta. What I want to talk about this morning is really about 5 things I've learned along the way. And all of these slides that I'm going to use this morning are going to be available to you. So the final slide is a link to where you can get the slides. It's a download. It's so big that it wouldn't be an email easily. I don't know about you, but my career has kind of gone like this over the last little while. I started in teaching and learning 30 years ago, but I would say over the last 10, it gets faster and faster and faster. And technology is really the factor that makes the difference, that has required responsiveness to change and provided new opportunities for teaching and learning. And I think it's not going to change anytime soon. A colleague at Simon Fraser University uses this diagram to describe the interrelationship of technology and learning, that we continue to progress in cycles of exploration, design, implementation, and evaluation. And we continue to assess learner needs in the context of the affordances that technology brings us. And so having that as a baseline requires us to think ahead, to think what comes after, what comes next, and constantly be ready to mount a response to changing conditions. One of the things that I've found, and this is one that really did me about 5 years ago, I've been teaching online for a long time in the Master of Educational Technology program at UBC, and a colleague of mine at Simon Fraser who teaches young sort of technology engineers, computer scientists, business people said, okay, hotshot, how about coming and trying a classroom one of these days and see if you can use your skills effectively in that environment. And she said, come a week before you do your guest lecture just to get a sense of what it's like, and I need you to engage these kids for an hour. So I went to the class and it looked like this. It was completely packed, about 300 students, every one of them with a laptop on their lap. And the challenge was I had to teach them about knowledge construction. And I got to tell you, I panicked. It was like, am I going to stand in the front and talk to these guys? Like, how's this going to work? So in my panic, the first thing I did is I went to Google. So that was the natural response. How do I teach? How do I bring interactivity and engagement to a large-scale lecture? How do I research how to use students' own technology effectively in lecture halls to support learning engagement and lesson outcomes? And these are the kinds of questions our teaching and learning centers deal with on a daily basis these days, because while I was able to make it work once, my colleague had to do it for 13 weeks. Constantly, those same students coming in, doing an engaging presentation, interactive session in a way that made sense to students and really, really affected learning. So one of the things I took away from that as I move forward is we really need to think about strategic themes as we move forward in this technology-enhanced education era. And we need to guide our own actions with those themes and think deeply about how we move forward. At eCampus Ontario, we were constructed as a way for government to fund our institutions to produce more access to learning for students. The whole notion of online providing convenient access. And we did an Ipsos study 2 years ago and found that there's a huge appetite for that in the province of Ontario, particularly among working professionals. And so we have to be very proactive in providing the latest state-of-the-art online learning opportunities for learners. And that means training faculty to be really good at the design, development, and delivery of online access. And if you go to our website, you'll find an amazing array of courses and programs online from all 45 institutions in the province. Currently, over 16,000 courses, over 700 programs online, study resources for students, teaching resources for faculty, opportunities to engage professionally. All of those things work, but they feel kind of static. And one of the things that really began to drive thinking in Ontario was that we needed to be thinking about the T-shaped student. Students who go to our institutions and get great programs that provide them with deep learning experiences. But at the same time, we need to find ways to help them earn other kinds of skills and attitudes and experiences that make them employable or good at further learning or good neighbors and citizens. Trying to get a handle on those cross-domain skills and attitudes was a challenge we've been thinking about. It's what UNESCO calls transversal skills, the skills that cut across domain knowledge, but actually are the valuable pieces that make you a contributor. How do we do that? These are some of the challenges we've been playing with. Our government decided last year that one of the ways we would get at transversal skills was to invest in LinkedIn Learning's lynda.com initiative. And they paid for every student, faculty member, and staff member at every post-secondary institution in the province to have unlimited access for 3 years to that program. It means that you, as a student who want to know about organizational behavior and you're taking an engineering program, can go here on your own time and watch 20-minute short videos and snippets on many, many different discipline and subject areas. 6,000 courses in business, technology, creative skills. So by that, I'm trying to communicate that the government of Ontario sees education as fundamental to the economic welfare of the province and is willing to invest in it in interesting ways, but interesting ways that are online. The other piece of the work for us is the notion that if we're really going to support educators, we need to help them extend their practice, to take their knowledge and use it in new and interesting ways. And we looked around to find a schema to make that happen. One of the ideas we had was to build a set of resources that were highly interactive and collaborative for teachers and instructors and faculty in our institutions to use that could be customized at any institution using an open licensing model. At the same time, we built an EdTech sandbox, a place where faculty members could try out new ideas and become familiar with new technologies that may be important to us as we move forward. 3 of those are in our sandbox right now: virtual reality labs, open badging environments to help recognize those transversal skills, and experiential learning platforms that students and faculty can use to manage virtual practicums in the workforce. These are the kinds of tools we've been playing with. At the same time, we decided to ramp up a training program for faculty that was different from the kinds of work that was happening in teaching and learning centers, and that wouldn't impinge upon those teaching and learning centers, but would simply extend the work that was happening there. We created 6 3-hour modules for self-directed study that can be used in face-to-face workshops or for collaborative study, made sure that every person taking that program had their own internet domain, their own portfolio on the net, all openly licensed. One of the things that we believed was that we need to challenge our thinking as teachers when we go into classrooms where technology is going to come into play. We need to think about creating new kinds of environments for students and figure out what works and what doesn't, that it's also a scholarship activity. A colleague at UBC, Simon Bates, has been talking about the attributes of what he calls 21st century educators. We're trying to think of it now as empowered educators. That these 6 attributes are really the core of what's needed to move forward in 2018. It's not enough to be a teacher. You need to be a teacher for learning. You have to know what's working in your classroom, and you have to be able to check it yourself. If you're going to be a user of the net, then curation and consumption of resources is a big part of that environment. How do you become a producer? How do you become a consumer of resources? How does open licensing work? These are fundamental skills that we believe teachers of the 21st century need. If you're going to be a curator of resources and use others' resources, then it makes sense to understand how to build personal learning networks, how to become a collaborator, how to share effectively with colleagues and peers. Technologists don't just happen. We have to be taught some of these skills, and it helps if you've got a bent for experimentation to try some things out in your classrooms. And in particular, if you're going to do new stuff in your classrooms, this is a great chance to use the skills you have as a scholar within your classroom to take a deep look about effective, discipline-appropriate pedagogical approaches. This is the framework that we're using in Ontario. It's called the Ontario Extend framework. We run workshops every few months in regions around Ontario, and a number of our colleges and universities have taken the open source resources, adapted them, rebranded them, and made them work within their own domain. Very effective. It's based on 4 principles. People are at different places on the continuum of learning with technology, and we need to encourage them to explore. If something catches their fancy, we need to help them engage with it. If it starts to work for them, move it into your classroom. Extend that practice. The goal is to feel empowered in using technology and making good decisions about what we use in our classrooms. We've also developed a badging scheme and competencies against each of those skill sets, and are working with teaching and learning centers in the province of Ontario to award badges to instructors who have demonstrated those skills and competencies. Not everybody wants the badge. Not everybody needs to go through all 6 units. But some people need more help than others, especially with new ideas like curation and open licensing. A lot of people are interested in the scholarship of teaching and learning, but don't know really how to get started. You're fortunate here in having a center that deals exactly with that. What we're really after is enlightenment. We would like teachers of the 21st century to come to the classroom feeling comfortable about technology and using it effectively in the way they interact with students. That's the real goal. The other strategy we're using is rethinking. We decided in 2016 with our board of directors that there were 3 areas of practice that needed some rethinking in the province of Ontario. Learning resources, learning experiences, and recognition of learning. I've already talked a little bit about the open badging piece. That's happening in Ontario. Learning experiences are driven through an alternative approach to learning experience. We thought hard about this and said, Who are the recipients of the teaching and learning that happens in our classroom? Students are. Why don't we use their ideas to fuel a learning experience design lab? So we have created what's called the Student Experience Design Lab in Ontario, sxdlab.ecampusontario.ca. There you'll find 6 amazing student projects thinking about how we retool for the 21st century using ideas that students bring to the fore to make teaching and learning effective. One of the big ones they've focused on is disposable assignments. The notion that throughout their careers in higher education, they're asked to do tests, assignments, they get marked, and then they get tossed. How do we take that energy and refocus it for positive, collaborative experiences? That's what they're working on. But what I want to talk about is learning resources. And the idea is, what happens when we bring teaching and learning into the open? It's not a new idea. After the Second World War, there was a lot of optimism about how the world could be better. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights said education shall be free, at least in the elementary and fundamental stages, and everybody should have access to higher education. But that only works if you can afford it. So one of the things that has happened over the last few years is that my colleagues across North America, and in fact around the world, are looking at ways of making education more accessible and affordable. BC Campus was patient zero in the Canadian context. In 2012, we were fortunate enough to persuade the Minister of the Crown that investing in open textbooks in our province would send a great message about public policy and save students a lot of money. To date, it's somewhere around $5 million. And over 200 open textbooks are available for high enrollment first and second year courses. That's a great piece of news. It inspired universities. The University of British Columbia decided to make a physics open textbook free. It saved students $90,000. The math department said, we can do better. The next year, they made a whole bunch of open textbooks in math free, saved students $1 million. Now, nearly all UBC math textbooks are available online for free. Momentum built quickly. Tidewater Community College in the US came up with a great idea. Why don't we make the resources for first and second year programs completely free and attract more students? Why don't we capitalize on the knowledge of our faculty to build resources that are appropriate to our students? They did. Now, Kwantlen Polytechnic in British Columbia is following up with the same idea. Zero cost for textbooks in KPU classes. They are so bold as to say in 2018, they will have 350 sections taught at Kwantlen with no-cost textbooks, involve 100 instructors, 30 departments, 10,000 students, and save students $1 million. This is being bold. We need to be bold. State University of New York have put $8 million into teaching and learning resources last year for university students and college students. They have been running ads on television and elsewhere promoting that work. Whoops. You don't need to see the ad, but I'll go back anyway. Let's try it. All right? No video. The state of Georgia has a wonderful approach called Affordable Learning Georgia. They have a federated repository of open resources for the whole state. It federates with the Merlot network in California. They produce stats, research, and reports to back up the work that they're doing. And they provide textbook transformation grants to faculty and instructors around the state of Georgia to adopt and adapt open textbooks. It's a government initiative. In Ontario, we've done the same thing. Our ads have been in the theaters, Cineplex. We have Cineplex ads running about open textbooks because we believe we need to get the message to students and their parents. We're pushing it directly in their faces. I'll show, you'll see the ad when you get the slides. The ad is really humorous, but it is designed to make people think. The big assumption around open education, and it can't be said enough, is what we're about is granting freedoms instead of imposing restrictions. That sharing is fundamental to teaching. It's a knowledge transfer, a gift of knowledge. Collaboration is a good thing. Spark's definition goes far beyond textbooks to resources, tools, and practices. And this is what begins to broaden the thinking about open education when we think beyond textbooks into practices and the kinds of things that we can do and help instructors do that make them more effective in the digital environment. Why is it happening? It's about reducing costs. It's about removing barriers. And this is the piece that you have to continually repeat for government. It is about giving faculty more control over their instructional resources. It's actually about academic freedom. It's about enabling choice. OpenStax set the pattern for the really tough books, the STEM disciplines, and made those available in ways that could be shared online, downloaded, printed, re-edited. This anatomy and physiology textbook is used worldwide. In the English-speaking world, I'm sure it's being translated in many languages as well. It's fundamental to many health science courses. It's a great contribution to the commons. We're seeing more and more of these. Academic freedom allows a creator who holds copyright to express rights beyond themselves. And it is the Creative Commons licensing model that provides the simple way to grant copyright permissions to your creative work. It's about using copyright in an interesting way. It's actually a hack of copyright, a positive hack. And so some rights reserved means you still own the intellectual property, but you get to express those rights beyond yourself in a simple way that let others know what they can do with the work. We're seeing it happen worldwide. We're starting to see it happen in really interesting academic disciplines. The health sciences is a good example. These are two from British Columbia. This is one that was produced at BCIT by two of my colleagues while I was there. This is a new one from Ontario that was produced just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Vital sign measurement across the lifespan. Another new open textbook in the nursing area. When we meet with students about these ideas, and that was one of the first things we did in Ontario, was not to go to faculty, but to go to students first, and talk to student government groups about the opportunities that affordability could provide. They got it. They started to build strategy. They started to diagram it, map it, look around to see what their colleagues in other jurisdictions were doing. They started to plan an advocacy strategy for the province of Ontario. And they were very effective in making that happen. You have a great student advocate here at Mount Royal. She has won a recent Open Education Consortium Award in Delft, Holland, for her work in promoting student awareness and advocacy of open education. Students know that the resource models that we employ are largely broken, and it actually affects their progress. Doesn't matter where you take an exit survey or an entrance survey, outside or inside a bookstore, many students do not purchase. If you don't have your materials on the first day of class, chances are you're not going to do as well as colleagues who do. Students make decisions based on affordability. Take fewer courses, not register for a course. That's what Kwantlen Polytechnic is doing with their ZCred approach, taking that out of the equation completely. The textbook broke campaign at the University of Saskatchewan, at the University of British Columbia, happens every semester. That one's a little dark. Learner advocacy is everywhere. We have had textbook broke campaigns all over Ontario. And guess what happens? Students keep seeing the value proposition in the open. If they're offered an open textbook, they like it. They make that choice. Government support is a key ingredient for scaling an open education strategy. There's no avoiding it. You have lots of critical mass in this room, but you need government support to take it on the next step in the journey. That's been demonstrated in other provinces, and it will continue to happen. This is Deb Matthews, who was the Deputy Premier in Ontario, the Minister of Advanced Education when I arrived there. My first meeting with her, she got it right away. This is a student affordability issue. I support it. As soon as the student groups in the province began to send her briefing papers and lobby her senior policy advisors directly, she was on it. She granted us $1 million to start an open textbook library in Ontario. She was delighted to be present to its launch last June in Toronto. Government websites were posting things like open textbooks equals lighter backpacks, heavier wallets. They ran with the message. Students get it, government gets it. It's about telling the story in a compelling way that allows government to see themselves as the savior in the process. And I think it's really important that we have to find a way, and it's different in every province, to get that message across. The next province in Canada that's going to go big, Quebec. eCampus Quebec is ramping up. They're already asking about open education as a key strategy. Our library mirrors the British Columbia Library, and we trade textbooks back and forth. So the libraries are growing simultaneously. You can find, adopt, adapt, be paid for a review. Here's some interesting data. In 2014, when faculty were asked in a broad US survey, what's their most important criteria for selecting teaching resources? Cost was at the bottom. Same survey, 2016, cost was near the top. Works with my LMS, down at the bottom. That's another story. LMS. Think it's got a long life? Not going to answer the question, just posing it. It's all about choices for students. And one of the things that's really important is to create open resources in multiple formats that fit the devices that students use. Portable, convenient, accessible. We've invested in an open publishing infrastructure for the province of Ontario because we believe that faculty should be assisted to reclaim the means of production for academic resources. And so we're working with Queen's University, Waterloo, the Council of University Libraries, the Council of College Libraries, Pressbooks, and the Rebus Foundation to build an open publishing infrastructure for the province that will allow faculty and instructors to be supported by libraries when they want to take an existing open textbook, adopt it, clone it, revise it and adapt it, and make it useful for their students. That's a big investment, and that's an investment that Ryerson University put up its hand to take on for the province of Ontario. We're using the Pressbooks publishing environment because it is the best environment at the moment to use, and it is open source software. What you get is the opportunity to build the second Canadian edition of Research Methods in Psychology, and then load it up and clone it and turn it into the third American edition of Research Methods in Psychology. Add some authors, add some new materials, change it just enough to make it more effective for students in another domain. That's what the Pressbooks environment allows us to do. Our message is pretty straightforward. Don't reinvent it. Adopt it and adapt it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel to be successful in open education. But it's not all about textbooks. Teachers also need other kinds of open resources. You know that when publishers knock on the doors of faculty, they are not just offering textbooks, they're offering homework systems, PowerPoint slides, all of those things. We need to be proactive in funding and supporting their development as well. So the fourth thing I've learned is that innovative professionals fuel the commons. They need recognition, they need support, and they need compensation. Academic labor is real labor. We need to pay people for their work. That's why all of the funding programs associated with open education are designed in the way they are designed. It's to provide compensation in time or money for people to be released to do the work. Innovations are everywhere on the web in the open space, but one of the best are the PhET simulations from University of Colorado Boulder. Simulations in HTML5 in physics, biology, chemistry, earth sciences, things you can embed in online courses, things you can use as a teaching resource for students. These are the kinds of new styles of resources that people are looking to build. The big idea of open is really about giving instructional resources expanded power. It's not just about affordability or low cost. And that's where the faculty empowerment idea starts to come in. Because what that licensing actually allows you to do are those 6 things that are pretty important if you're trying to make sure the resource you use is effective in your classroom. So it's more than just a good deal. There's a lot of research beginning to happen that demonstrates that access to customized resources improves learning. And that's what open resources really are. Resources that you have full power to customize are within your grasp and your use with students. We see studies, empirical studies like this starting to happen. This is 2015. Multi-institutional study of the impact of open textbook adoption on the learning outcomes of post-secondary students. And guess what? It's the same. There is no negative effect. 2018 from British Columbia. As good or better than commercial textbooks, students' perceptions and outcomes from using open digital and open print textbooks. More research will be needed, but this is the fuel you can use when working with colleagues who ask those kinds of questions. Authentic learning activities, really important. So ChemWiki was a big success 5 years ago at the University of California, Davis. It was the living online chemistry textbook that set the pattern for how a wiki-based environment could actually be highly productive and highly beneficial, not only for teaching and learning, but for empowering students and faculty to co-create. It's evolved into LibreText, which is the newer idea, the newer version. And these sites begin to provide collegial, collaborative, co-creation environments where texts are built and provided for others to use. Robin DeRosa at Plymouth State University in New Hampshire is a great example of a faculty member who decided, I need to think differently about the resources I use with my students. She had been using an anthology of early American literature that her students paid $90 for every year. And what she realized was that all of those resources were actually in the public domain. So she decided to build an open anthology of early American literature. And when she gave it to students, the first question they asked was, well, where are the biographies of the authors? And where are all the contextual pieces that help, illuminate this material? And that's her point was, that's what you're going to create. That's the assignment in this course, is to actually better understand the environment in which this literature took place and build it out. Her experience on her blog, My Open Textbook, Pedagogy and Practice, is one faculty member's experience about how to put together a new way of thinking about her teaching and learning that involved her students directly in the creation and curation of the materials over time. Great idea. Maya Krizik, University of British Columbia. When she came to the University of British Columbia, she had an idea to build a collaborative network. She's a soil scientist, to collect soil information from across Canada and share the information with others as part of both a research network and as a set of teaching resources. Her faculty colleagues said, don't do it. It'll affect your tenure status. Don't do it. Maya's pretty sharp. And this UBC YouTube video demonstrates that she's a bit of a rock star on that campus. She said, I'm doing both. I'm creating a research network, and out of that research network will come resources that my students can use that can be shared across Canada. And I'm going to build open source applications to collect information to continue to build my network. She got tenure. She's won research and teaching awards. And by the way, the University of British Columbia is the first university in Canada to have a tenure track stream for teaching that validates open educational resources. Cool. That's important stuff. How do you onboard new faculty to a college? This is my colleague, Terry Green. He works with us at eCampus, Ontario. He created something called the Open Faculty Patchbook, a way to give new faculty coming to Fleming College a set of tools and resources that would help them assimilate into the culture of Fleming College and the culture of teaching and learning in the college sector. It continues to grow. You can add a patch anytime to the Open Faculty Patchbook. K-12. Verena Roberts, sitting in the back row here today. Even in K-12, people are starting to think differently about the resources they use. How about creating a network? How about encouraging risk-taking? How about encouraging a sharing culture beyond the walls of any elementary school to build a library of open resources that are curated locally and are added to by colleagues. Great idea. We need more thinking like that. Collegial collaboration. Librarians are all over open. Guess what? In British Columbia, the BC OER librarians, from the beginning, wanted to ensure that there was a consistent set of resources used in libraries across the province of British Columbia. The same thinking is starting to happen in Ontario. A library network exists across Canada, in every province. Librarians are very collaborative. Coming up with a consistent set of resources that are used on every campus is a great step forward. If it has to do with digital publishing and helping faculty publish in a digital environment using open source and openly licensed tools, cool. Textbook sprints. BC Campus pioneered this with the first-year geography text, BC in a global context. They brought faculty members, instructional designers, graphic artists, technicians together for a week at the University of British Columbia and hammered out a new first-year geography textbook. While they were doing it, they were tweeting actively what they were doing it. Ministry of the Environment saw what they were doing and said, guess what? We have all these resources and maps and data sets we could give you, and they gave them to them. That sort of thing starts to happen. We had a great one happen in Ontario 2 or 3 months ago where they took the pre-Confederation history course and 2 professors at York University built it into an open history seminar and then as a spin-off created what they call a visual syllabus for the course. So it's an interesting way of representing the course, how much of it is lectures, tutorials, readings, assignments. They started tweeting about it, and so then I picked this up on Twitter. Here's someone who saw that on Twitter and started redesigning her course using that visual course syllabus idea. These things are viral once they get started. If it's a good idea, people run with it. Academic networks are powerful. This is one of the newest from Niagara College, work-integrated learning, a complete open access approach to work-integrated learning with videos and resources for students that are generic and not highly branded, so they're easy to reuse. Go to Niagara College, look up Work-Integrated Learning Open Module Initiative, and you'll find 31 excellent resources to use with students for work-integrated learning. People are willing to share. Carleton University maintains a Carleton University open website, pointing faculty to new resources that come along and are featured in their highlighted stories every month. People are starting to get it. Test bank sprints, one of the easiest ways to get into open education is to create a resource that almost every faculty member finds they'll need in a social sciences course. This is the Great Psychology Test Bank Sprint. 2 days, 17 psych faculty, 6 institutions, 850 questions, all shared amongst those institutions. That's a good way of getting started. Demonstrating the service mission of institutions. Lots of people are doing MOOCs, but very few are doing MOOCs that also grant credit with them. The Open Resource University initiative out of New Zealand is one of those initiatives. Ryerson University and Humber College in Ontario are participants, Athabasca University here in Alberta. A really great idea about making resources freely available and finding institutions who will accredit learning for those resources using prior learning assessment or a challenge exam. It's not a degree, it's just a starter set of courses to get people who probably are not sure enough of themselves to get into higher education or can't afford to at least sample it. Live now at oeru.org. Thompson Rivers University accredits here in Canada. University of the Highlands and Islands in Scotland, and Otago Polytechnic in New Zealand. OERU. One of the things that we found needs to happen if you're going to be successful with an open education program is a well-supported team of open rangers. People who are supported from the center to make sure things happen effectively in their own institutions. Our vision in Ontario is really the sort of campfire metaphor. We want to build a community, want to talk about stuff, want to take steps based on what the community thinks would work best. For us, it's about social good, human connections, produce high-value community resources. When you label them with Creative Commons, everybody benefits. It's a very simple equation. It takes people to make it run. We have a number of community connector programs in Ontario. Our Open Textbook Library, our Open Rangers. We have 6 Open Education Fellows. The Ontario Extend program is part of our open strategy. The Patchbook, the Catch. I'll tell you what those are. So empowering faculty is really important. Faculty telling stories to faculty about open education is the most powerful thing you can do. I talk at a system level. My colleague Rajiv Jangjani from British Columbia talks to faculty directly. Robin DeRosa talks to faculty directly. So what we need are people on our campuses who can identify those faculty, who can support those faculty, who can bring information and ideas and tools and practices, who can network them with colleagues at other institutions. We have a network of open rangers in all of our institutions in Ontario. We literally trained them. They actually have hats and badges. We went the whole 9 yards. Open Research Fellows. You actually have to enable faculty to do research in this area. We need to find ways to support and contribute to their growth as scholars in the open education space. We have 6 open fellows in the province of Ontario currently in all kinds of disciplines, from nursing to geology, to teacher education, to German studies. They're everywhere. We need to support people to do stuff. The Extend program, I can't emphasize enough how effective this has been in building community in Ontario. That instructors and faculty are doing things they haven't done before with colleagues, building things experimentally, trying them out in their classes. It's very cool. We're researching it actively right now to just get a better sense of how effective it's going to be. It's completely open licensed. You can download the whole program from our website. It's a WordPress site. You can reinstall it in your university. You can rebrand it. All the files are there. Everything from pictures to recording, they're all included. The Patchbook continues to grow. More faculty contributing to the onboarding of other faculty and the introduction of open concepts early in their career. We're also building an open learner patchbook to understand what benefits students have gotten from open education and how they can communicate and how we can communicate that more broadly. Coming this June, we are offering a cross-Canada open education mini MOOC because we believe that while we can build community in Ontario, we need to build community across the country. Canada is a confederation. Let's start sharing stuff actively across the country. One of the areas of practice that we have thought could be a focus going forward is embodied in a project that we're calling Open at Scale. That is, pick a subject discipline, a hard subject discipline, and attack it with a collaborative approach using multiple provinces. We've approached the Ontario government and the Hewlett Foundation about an Open at Scale initiative for nursing programs. What if all of the resources in nursing programs were openly available and free? What would that look like? Could we do it? That's a high precision environment. You have to get it right. The catch is our bi-weekly newsletter where you can find out about stuff that we're doing. You can subscribe to it on our website. And we are encouraging everyone to kind of stoke the fire of openness. Moving forward at eCampus Ontario, we have 3 strategies for the next 3 years. Lead through open and collaborative practices, build capacity through shared and collaborative services, inspire innovation through investment in research and development. We are about to put our strategic plan for 2018-21 into action using open innovation as the guiding principle, funding calls for open resources, research and innovation, and funding to support the development of a shared educational service structure for the province, a shared library of open resources, a shared infrastructure for open publishing, a shared set of technologies and tools that allow people to be more effective as a community. Our funding is going to be announced May 31st, but we're just about to put $6.65 million into open initiatives, $1.3 into shared services, and $3.5 into scholarship. It's an intentional program of activity, and we've been successful in obtaining the money by demonstrating to government that it benefits students and it benefits the infrastructure for teaching and learning for the province. So being able to make that connection with government is what provides the opportunity to move forward in a very active way. I thank you. And if you would like these slides, you can find them at the URL that is posted there.